Welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on their minds. Oh, God.
Keep going. Just keep going.
It's going to be one of those weird ones, folks. We're on Zoom. Live on Zoom, pre-recorded for you. I'm Trevor Keyson. I'm a super chub, and I have some Christmas spirit energy. I have some cold, crisp morning energy. I have some scat jazz energy, as you can tell from the weird intro.
You certainly do.
Hi, my name is Michael. I am a chaser, and I've also got some good Christmas vibes going. I like that we're all wearing some form of red. Even Dan, who is in his classic white T-shirt, still has a red headphone cable on him.
And red shorts.
Red shorts that we can't see. So I'm feeling it. I'm getting ready for the holidays.
He didn't say he was wearing them. There's just red shorts somewhere.
They're in the area.
I took them off my head.
Hi, my name is Don. I'm a big chubby guy living in sunny Hollywood, and today I am a anticipatory Christmas boy. I have finally officially made my plans to stay here in Los Angeles, which I hardly ever do through Christmas. So I'm looking forward to exploring the empty city.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Dan Oliverio, chubby chaser, author, public speaker, and I am just loving this crisp, cold Los Angeles. I don't think we're in winter. Yes, we are in winter. No, we're not in winter. We're not in winter yet. Sorry. We're still in fall, but it's crisp and cool and a bracing 58 degrees.
I know. I have such a hard time grasping you can be in December and it not be winter. It's just a weird thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are coming to you guys over Zoom, as Trevor said, and I think it's going to be a good one, actually. We've got some good vibes going.
Woo!
Let's dive right on in with some good news for everybody. Nicole Byer, our favorite big, beautiful woman, has a Netflix comedy special coming out.
Mm-hmm.
It's out. It's live. It's wonderful.
Ready to be watched. It is Nicole Byer, BBW, Big Beautiful Weirdo.
I got so excited when I saw that.
It's a great name.
I was
a little double entendre there for you. I watched the trailer. I haven't actually seen the show yet, but I watched the trailer. Have you guys seen the trailer for it, out of curiosity?
Yes,
I have.
So thoughts about this? Because the trailer is basically her pole dancing to this like sexy pole dancing song. And then the only clip from the show they play, it cuts to her saying, "I need to get, bleeped." And everybody laughs and claps and cheers. And
what more do you need to know, Michael? I mean, that's the show.
My question was, is that Netflix playing the "it's funny because fat people aren't sexy" joke, or is that just her taking ownership of being funny and sexy at the same time?
I mean, I would argue that a person of any size doing that that's gonna be on the sizzle reel. That's gonna get featured.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's attention grabbing. Well,
I'm trying to remember his name. It's something Vasquez. Great little comic out of Brooklyn that I like. He used to be on the Nightly Show. His billboards for his most recent special is just him standing naked with his hands over his junk. So it's similar. It's sort of thematically the same. It's a playful sexuality being used to advertise your comedy special.
Are we going to go as far as calling this a new theme, a new trend, or is it just these two people?
No, what's her name? Amy Schumer did something similar. I think she had didn't she have a naked pregnant photo to advertise one of her comedy things?
I just remember her in all the leather.
I don't know if the naked thing was for a stand-up special or if it was just like her pregnant on a magazine cover, like doing kind of the Demi Moore.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, right.
I've not finished the stand-up special. There, I don't want to spoil it for people, but there is a very nice bit about I don't know, people who follow Nicole Byer on Instagram will know that she dislocated her ankle, like basically kind of right when things were kind of starting to open up again, and she has a bit about kind of that, which is very, very funny, very enjoyable.
Relatable.
I didn't know you could dislocate your ankle.
I didn't either. That sounds horrible.
I think you can conceivably dislocate any joint, right?
Could you dislocate your head?
Your ankle is such a
just
hodgepodge
dying?
of so many little bones. Like,
Not if it's screwed on.
That's true.
Well, that's cool. But you've seen the start of it, Trevor, and you like what you've
Yes.
seen so far?
Yes.
Excellent. I am so looking forward to checking that out.
I'm a little, I don't think we've done this on the show before, but speaking of things that we just watched, I just watched the first 6 episodes of Wheel of Time, which our dear co-host Don was heavily involved with the development of.
Yes.
Are we allowed to say that? Am I allowed to say that?
I can say that much, but I
Okay.
It's one of those things. I'm wrapped in so many NDAs. I'm terrified to say anything.
Well, I'm even more excited to see it now because I've anticipated it, but there's a lot of the sci-fi stuff. I mean, maybe I've been too jaded by the CW, and I'm like, oh, it's just that. Okay, never mind. But so I am excited for it.
Yay!
I really liked it. I have not read the books, as most people know. I'm not a big book reader guy for a variety of reasons. And so movies and shows are the way that I like to get into stories. And I thought it was really, I was surprised, and I was surprised by how consistently surprised I was.
Nice.
Like as the show goes on, there's a really nice sort of evolution of how they bring you into the world, which is very accessible. For people who haven't, because I've never experienced the story, and I'm sure that's the balance they have to strike. I don't know how people who have read the books are taking it, but for me, it was actually really easy to get into and very watchable.
I am pleased to say that so far I am watching the fan reactions like a hawk, and most of them have been pretty freaking positive so far.
Oh, good.
So it's the #1 Amazon release for the year, one of the top 5 Amazon releases of all time. So
oh wow. Awesome.
I am very pleased.
Yay. All right, next up. So I'm going to let somebody else take the lead on this because I didn't actually get to read it.
I'll set it up because I saw this and I thought it was very exciting and interesting, and I set it aside during our hiatus. And it's a tweet, a little Twitter thread from Michael Hobbs, co-host of Maintenance Phase with Aubrey Gordon, all around wonderful debunker, journalist, terrific fella. But he's done a Twitter purge. So this morning when I went to look at it again, it has been deleted, but it's not like he doesn't stand by it. It's like he deleted everything from Twitter before, I think it was December 11th. But I was able to kind of recover the tweet to set this up. And he's basically looking at 2 different studies of COVID like risks for death. And by comparing these 2 studies, people who aren't married are more likely to die of COVID than people who are obese. And Dan said that this, he kind of dives into this a little more in a recent episode of Maintenance Phase.
Yeah, the episode of Maintenance Phase, their podcast, the episode is called Is Being Fat Bad for You? And they do a beautiful deep dive into the history of obesity research and some of the practices and biases, and also going into the controversies of like, well, because this study says this study says that, I guess we'll never know. It's like, no, that the study that says this is flawed. Stop it. Just stop it. And one of the things that they delve into, which is adjacent to this tweet, is the idea of correlation, and that, there's a lot bigger things that correlate with mortality than obesity, but we explain those away because we don't believe in them, but we latch on to the correlation about obesity because, well, fat people. Mm-hmm. And so if you're looking around for correlates for mortality, or in this case, correlates for COVID, there are lots of higher correlations than being fat. And then in the podcast, they also get into, well, what do they mean by being fat? And well, it's BMI. Okay, but then how are those studies generating BMI? And who's reporting the BMI? And blah, 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 and off to the races we go. But yeah, I think the takeaway from this is that we use statistics to reinforce what we already believe. And if we don't believe it, then we don't believe the statistic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What I like about the since deleted tweet thread is him saying, people aren't going to look at the study about marital status and like be like, oh my God, I have to get married, and like run out and get married.
Or in the podcast, another one he looks at is that it's Catholics have 5 years longer life expectancy than evangelical Christians, and Jews have 5 years more life expectancy than Catholics. But when you're going to your doctor's office, no doctor says, well, have you considered converting to Judaism? Because, it will lengthen your life. In some cases by 10 years. You really should be looking at Judaism. And nobody says that, because then we start looking for other factors. But if someone says, oh, you're so many pounds, quote unquote, overweight, have you tried weight loss? Nobody looks at the alternate factors. Well, do you have access to health care? Are you avoiding health care because your doctor's going to hector you? Did you wait too long to find? There's so many other factors, the economics of it. But nobody's looking for that because those are seen as irrelevant.
Yeah.
But when we have higher correlations, it's like, oh, well, there's obviously another way to explain that.
Yeah. It was definitely, I even saw recently somewhere that was, God, I don't even care to remember what it was, but it was just like in the course of a conversation, it was like, oh, and we all know that obesity is a higher mortality rate for COVID. And continued speaking, I was just sitting there like, can we not can we just move past this assumption like that this is just going to I was talking to a friend of mine recently, actually, and it was like, talking about how like, oh, well, of course it's a good idea to lose weight because you want to live longer. And I was like, I'm sorry, wait, can we just rewind this for a second? Like,
well, no,
really?
it's deeper than that, Michael, because he points to this one particular study where their authors are comparing the mortality rates of thin people versus fat people. And the study very carefully selects out the thin people who were smokers, the thin people who, died in the first few years, because obviously they were sick anyway. But the study makes a footnote of saying, oh, by the way, on the obese side of the group, we left in anybody who died and assumed that they died because they were fat. We just made that assumption. Here's the footnote that says it. Moving on.
Holy shit.
So if you got hit by a car while you were fat, that was an obesity-related illness.
Well, you can dodge.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you got hit by a car while you were fat, then you died of being fat. But if you were a smoker who used tobacco to stay thin, that's not a thin related death.
Holy shit, that is flawed.
Very common. Very, very common.
Well, we got some more flawed stuff coming, people.
Yeah.
We
Brace
set
yourselves, people.
the hopes high with Nicole Byer doing her pole dance in a cheeseburger bikini. And we're going right in. Michael doesn't have the button.
I don't.
It's feel of the music washing over you.
Hear it in your heads.
Yes. It's in your headphones, gentle listener. It is, oh my God, it's the last Fat Watch.
This year.
2021.
This year.
2021.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's right.
Not
Dun,
ever.
dun, dun. Not ever, no. It's a
2020 part 2.
Yeah. No, so this is, so I first heard an ad for this new campaign when I was listening to the podcast, Stuff You Missed in History Class. And at first I got excited, and then the ad continued. And it is a new campaign called It's Bigger Than Me. And it is about destigmatizing obesity.
That sounds great, Trevor.
Yes.
Why wouldn't that be a good thing, Trevor?
It is funded by Novo Nordisk.
A pharmaceutical company.
Yes. As part of a launch for their new weight loss drug, Wegovy.
Oh, fun.
And
name.
Queen Latifah, the 2 E's, Queen Latifah, is part of this campaign, which Dan and I just watched last holiday, which delightful movie. Check it out.
Even
It's
I liked
wonderful. Yeah.
Well, because I hate romantic comedy.
But they're Reagan Chastain. We love Reagan Chastain and all the kind of work she does with educating people about advocacy for standing up for themselves with doctors, debunking. And she wrote a piece kind of unpacking all of this for The Mighty. What is everyone's feelings on this? Because I have a lot of feelings. I keep getting ads for this, by the way, and it's just infuriating me every time.
I'm glad I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
My take was, I had the initial, I guess, reaction of, okay, so but why is this? You want to know why, like, because us on the surface, it's like, oh, we're gonna take down fat phobia, and she breaks down the whys of how this is actually propagating self-hatred and amongst fat people, basically in order to convince them that they should go get this product to go lose weight. The first point of which is that they don't use the word fat. They can't bring themselves to use the word fat, and instead choose to use trigger words like obese and overweight, terms which, as she writes, were created to pathologize fat bodies with a basis in racism and specifically anti-blackness. And that actually hit home immediately for me. I was like, oh God, that is so insidious that like we're using languaging that will make you subconsciously sort of recoil in a way that, I mean, the word fat obviously I think still has that impact for people, but at its core, it is just, as Dan has said, an adjective, whereas obese and overweight are designed to make you know that it is wrong to be fat.
They're medical categories.
There's additional baggage there with tagged on messages.
I mean, to be fair, though, if you're Novo Nordisk, you're talking to doctors, you're going to use the medical nomenclature, as egregious as it is. They're not talking to fat activists. They're talking to doctors who are trying to get rid of the dreaded disease, quote unquote, of obesity. And the thing that's disingenuous about this is that if there were money in blaming fat people's character, they'd be all over that. But there's actually, if you're a pharmaceutical company, there is so much more money to be made by making fat a metabolic disorder. So let's jump on that. Right? Because otherwise,
cure that.
Right, exactly. Because, so it's, and I'm kind of two-minded about this because we know so little about why people are fat. We have a dozen possible causes. And it's suspect to be looking for causes. Like it's, if we talked about, well, what causes homosexuality? That would be a ridiculous conversation today. Or just like you can ask the question, but nobody's terribly interested in the discussion. And we used to see homosexuality as a medical issue, as a mental illness, as causing death. I mean, there's a whole long history of this. And you can see it repeating itself again or extending itself again with the fat community. So it's tough because there's so much bias behind the question. We need better questions. We don't need answers to our bad questions.
I think it's also worth pointing out, because we've talked about this. I mean, I feel like at several points this year, and I know maybe last year, times flat circle, as we know at this point, Wegovy is a higher dose of semaglutide, which is, I mean, we've been talking about this as they have been releasing these studies and talking about, oh my God, we can sell this as a weight loss medication. But also it has the side effect of suicidal ideation and behaviors, which...
Yeah, but you'll be a thin corpse when you kill yourself.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. That's really the important thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I got to say, like, there's this lovely casket that I've been trying to slim down to fit into.
There you go. See, yeah.
That's the kind of gallows humor I'm used to.
You want to look good at your funeral.
Oh,
Everyone has that little black coffin in their closet that they're just trying to fit into.
All right. So keep your eyes out for the It's Bigger Than Me campaign as it tries to sneak its way into your medicine chest while pretending that it's trying to make you feel better about yourself.
I hope Queen Latifah is getting a ton of money for this, and that maybe she is just living her best life with her new boat. It's like the Queen Latifah of the sea, and she is just has her sunglasses on, wind in her hair, sunlight warming her face. Feel it. Feel the sunlight on your face.
yes.
Yes.
Someday we might want to do an episode on, if you are a fat celebrity, what other products are you going to be asked to rep besides a diet or weight loss product? Like, are you going to, like if you're a thin celebrity, you can get approached by all sorts of food companies, athletic wear, like you have all these endorsement opportunities. But what are your opportunities as a fat celebrity? And I wonder if that is often the case driving these choices Because I'm thinking about like, gosh, it's so disappointing when a celebrity reps a product that we don't believe in, whether it's, Weight Watchers or Novo Nordisk.
So I think I have some off the top of my head. There's weight loss medication, weight loss treatment medication, whatever. If the celebrity has a chronic illness, they're allowed to advertise that. Old Navy.
Diabetes.
Yeah, but it's got to be but you wouldn't hire that celebrity, that fat celebrity, unless it were a quote unquote obesity related disease.
That's true.
No, I can see.
But that's good news. That's good news because everything is an obesity related disease. Because if you're fat, that's why you got it.
Old Navy. Old Navy has had some. I feel
That's
like
true.
they usually have
There you go. Yeah, that's
the
true.
plus size celebrity du jour in their like winter campaign. And so they're in sweaters and pajamas.
But even in those campaigns, like A.D. Bryant has to comment like, I'm in a Gap ad. Like, she's as surprised as we
they
are.
unlocked the door and I snuck in.
Well, speaking of
Sneaking in.
Sneaking into the party.
Sneaking in. So I think Don should set up our main topic this week because this was kind of,
yes.
So while I was visiting my father, he has gained a lot of weight as he nears his 80th as he passes his 80th birthday. And during COVID, being remarkably inactive, he's reached a level of weight that he's never had before. And suddenly I found my father coming to me and talking about like, all these things you've told me about, they're real. Who knew? I thought it was all in your head.
Oh gosh.
And so now he's like, when he discovered I was wearing the suspenders that we've talked about on our podcast that go over the shoulder, he thought it was freaking genius. And suddenly I am the fat guru, right? So post-COVID, we're now entering a world where suddenly a whole bunch of people are identifying as being fatter. And now my dad is legit getting bigger, but a lot of people are showing up on like Growler and Bigger City saying that they are now chubs. And while, I believe a lot of fat is in our head, we define ourselves by our own self-images and that's okay. This is a little weird for me. And I don't know how to feel about it. It's like, I don't want to tell people like you are not fat because then I'm taking away something that they believe they see themselves as and that they're feeling and they're being treated as, I imagine.
Well, at least by their own mind.
By their own mind or maybe by their friends. I don't know the circumstances of their life.
The reason I think you're conflicted, and I am too, is because there's so many ways to come at this question. Mm-hmm. And because on the one hand, you don't want to be a gatekeeper, which you alluded to, like, who's allowed in the fat club? Well, you're not. Why? Because I say so.
Yep.
So there's that. But then there's the other thing of, well, if, let me start here. If body positivity is rolling out far and wide, then a lot of people are going to be less inclined to be shamed by their weight gain. And they're going to say, yeah, I'm a chub. Haha. See, I gained 20 pounds and now I'm a chub. Deal with it. And let me put because I think what you're about to say, the problem with body positivity is that it sort of erases the line between someone who lost a set of abs and who is like 500 pounds. Like there's fat liberation and then there's, not feeling like shit about your body.
Yes. But what I was going to say is I think something that is extremely telling, and I don't know, Don, if this is part of what prompted you to suggest this, Grindr introduced a new, like, I guess kind of hashtag system where you can select hashtags for your profile for like, they used to have this thing with tribes, which was very limited, but now you can select hashtags, which like there's bear. And then there's also like, I don't know, water sports and there's some things I don't even know where I'm like, what? I should probably Google this, but I don't want to.
If you don't know, you don't need to know.
Chub is an option.
Oh, good.
Which I will say Grindr has always had. For a long time, Grindr had the highest weight option you could like select for their profiles. Then like it didn't. I think maybe a Growler went that high, but like it was higher than Scruff, which was like I feel like the first kind of bear Grindr thing. Mm-hmm. But like it's interesting. They have chub, but they don't have chaser or chubby chaser.
Well, and that's the thing. That's why I stay off of all the mainstream apps. Because I mean, sure, I could put it in the description, but nobody reads the description. Whereas if you're fat and you have a picture of yourself being fat, guess what? People know you're fat. Or at least can make a decision about like they're attracted, they're not attracted. But as a chaser, there's no way for me to screen out like, you know, the muscle bear down the street who wants to get with me. I'm like, sorry, not that what I do. and if I go on a traditional app, that's 90% of the attention I'm going to get because no one's going to read farther than, you know, my torso.
Yeah. I think one of the things that bothers me just personally is I get a sense from a lot of these people that they are descending from on high to be with you plebeians. Like, I have fallen from my A-gay status, so now I will deign to mix with you. And you should be glad to have me. That's my reaction.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think I interpret it slightly differently. It's more like, you know, I'm down with the people. I'm down with the oppressed because I've gained 20 pounds.
Yeah, that too.
Right. Taking ownership of a life experience that you haven't had time to have because you've only, you know, in the last like 6 months.
Yes, but and counting as life experience the shame that you felt over these 20 pounds, which you think is somehow equivalent to the life experience of someone who is 300 or 400 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, what I think is interesting is, so like, I'm curious what the experience is going to be for these, you know, newfound chubs, you know, who maybe went from 180 to like, you know, a fit 180 thick, maybe, you know, 3 C's as always, to like, you know, 220 and they have a belly now and they don't know what to do. And like, there definitely is a class of chub who I've talked to who, you know, have frustration because like, they're like, I'm too fat for the mainstream, but I'm too small. Like chasers aren't into me because I'm not big enough. And I'm curious if these new chubs, this new wave chub experience, if they're going to have that. And also like if there's going to be like an influx then now of chasers who like thick guys, you know, 3 C's, but then are like, oh my God, that's so great. Like, you know, the bigger chubs and super chubs being like,
I agree with that
them.
thinking. I have to admit, like, my experience of being a chubby guy in my 20s looking for people who would be into my body, as opposed to being a guy in my 40s looking for guys who'd be into my body, has been very different. Like, there are way more younger people identifying as chasers now than were when I was younger. And whether that's because there's greater access to the content as far as like pornography and sexualized large bodies is more available now, or maybe because there are physically more chubby guys to be appreciated. Who knows? But
well, I remember, you know, I was out in West Hollywood with a friend of mine who hadn't been to West Hollywood in literally decades. And the last time he was in West Hollywood, it was, you know, 1987, 1992 or something, like ancient times. And he remembers it as like ultra thin because that was the gay aesthetic, to be ultra thin. It was the era of the twink. And now, I mean, twinks get, at least in my circles, twinks get trashed. I mean, to the point where like, it's almost offensive in the other direction, where like, you're not allowed to have that body. You should be fatter. And
wow.
it just, well,
Damn.
because it comes from, I think, you know, fat people have been shit on for so long. And a lot of times in a community, when you get shit on, you tend to pass it along. When you know, like, you know, if you're big,
fair.
if you're the middle child and you got shat on by your big brother, then you're going to pass it on to your little brother. It's kind of that syndrome.
Right.
But what I'm thinking is what you're speaking about, Don, could be that it's not only that people have gotten fatter, but also the aesthetic has changed. And in the 80s, that changed too with the AIDS epidemic. It was suspect to be thin because maybe you had AIDS. And that's when bodybuilding came into fruition for a number of reasons.
I don't know about that, though, because bodybuilding was also a reaction to the AIDS medications, wasn't it?
Well, in the sense that you could get on steroids like testosterone or other steroids as a guard against wasting disease. So steroids were much more available in the gay community than they had ever been before. It wasn't just Muscle Beach.
Yeah, I remember I tended to be more like when I was very, you know, like on guard about AIDS all the time, and I was like consuming me when I was thinking about sex. I remember a built guy with a bit of a belly was a warning sign to me because that meant AZT. That meant
right. That's the lipodystrophy. Yeah, the redistribution of fatty deposits in places like the belly, but completely like rail thin everywhere else.
Yeah,
or the hump.
So
on the back of
I've
the
always
neck.
thought that sort of like our swing into muscle bound jockdom was more of a reaction to that like picture of the definition of what we think of as physical looking health.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we do hit this point where like I kind of don't want to call people out because I don't want to say you're not one of us, but
Well,
you're not one of us.
well,
Like,
there's also
you
an
have a different
econo-
experience.
Exactly. There's also an economic side to this because, as
Yeah.
a lot of people in the gainer community will tell you, I mean, there have been a lot of people. It's not just gainer; it's also just the chub community too, where they're on OnlyFans or Patreon, and they're making money showing off their gorgeous fat body, or increasing the size of their gorgeous fat body, and then some little ex muscle boy who's put on 20 pounds has discovered that, I can make money claiming to be a gainer, or I can make money showing off how I've gained 40 pounds. And so it's really upset the sort of, I don't know what else to call it, let's say authentically fat, as opposed to accidentally fat or whoopsie fat. And deciding whoopsie fat and deciding to capitalize on it.
Can we refer to this like COVID generation of fat people as the whoopsie fat?
Yes.
I like the whoopsie fat. That is my
Thank you.
favorite new word ever.
That's right.
So, I mean, I don't necessarily have any suggestions on how to change my thinking about this. I don't really know how to go about it.
I don't think you need to. I think you just keep asking the questions you're asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's also just like watching because, so like I was talking about Scruff before, which was designed as like, the bare alternative for Grindr. But around the time it launched was when Twink was really falling out of fashion. And all these guys were saying, like, oh, I'm not a twink, I'm a twunk.
Mm-hmm.
And,
God.
growing,
Oh, God.
not stop shaving, got some scruff, like the titular app. And, some body hair. And like, I know a lot of bears that don't like scruff because it got invaded by, faux bears. And it's like the
Whoopsie bears.
yeah, whoopsie bears. Yes. the whoopsie bears. And I guess that's just maybe like what my fear would be that like Chub Chaser will get co-opted and it'll just be like,
Oh, it's too late. It's happening.
I don't think so. I think
No, I think we're on the verge. Aren't we on the doorstep? I don't know.
I don't know.
But I think it's the nature of things. It's the nature of, you have this outlier group, then that outlier group is cool, and then everybody wants to be part of that outlier group. We see it in skin tone. We're seeing it now in body weight. We've seen it in fashion for years. It's kind of how culture has been evolving in the last, let's say, 50 years.
See, one of the things that I worry about, though, is let me walk you through this. I'm not sure how to express this super clearly. Bear with me. So you have a bunch of these people that have never been fat, right? They get used to sort of thin privilege, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then all of a sudden, for the first time in their life post-COVID, like they start identifying themselves as fat, right? Because they feel that there's some sort of pushback against them, which means it's the first time they felt this sort of thing. How do we react the first time we feel oppression? By either sort of collapsing into yourself, which is very unhealthy, or by fighting back vehemently.
Mm-hmm.
And
Because now
like,
it affects me.
right. So then all of a sudden you have like this new flash in the pan of like Insta activists
Yeah.
that don't really know how to be activists yet. So they get more douchey than they are activism, which causes a backlash against fat people because the whoopsie fats start sort of climbing on the bandwagon and fighting back in a bad or old-fashioned way that we've already discarded that doesn't work.
Well, because they're not
I know.
activists.
I
They're
feel
not
like I'm
activists.
describing a conspiracy theory here, but
No, because Don, you hit it. Because they're not activists. Because activists are fighting for the good of a group or community. These people you're talking about are fighting for the good of themselves. Like, oh gosh, I'm fat. Well, fat people need rights, meaning me.
yeah. But as soon as they lose the weight, they're going to start talking to fat people about like, it's so easy to lose the weight. Why didn't you do it?
Yeah, exactly. We've
Because
heard that over and over
they
again.
don't understand what it means to actually be a fat person, right? The experience of genuine fatness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm anticipating, I'm just looking at the face of my future antagonists, and
Well,
it's
I mean,
annoying.
on the other hand, it might increase the dating pool. Who knows?
Yeah, let's stick with that. Knock on wood.
Because if where this shakes out is that being fat can happen to anyone, which is a terrible way to say it. But if being fat can happen to anyone, then maybe I can be less judgy about the people who are fat.
Yeah.
It could happen to you or you.
Oh, I know
or
so
even
many.
you.
I know so many conversion stories, especially in the medical community, where the thin, hot doctor got fat and all of a sudden had a different view of obesity.
Yeah, funny that.
It's like
Funny
the
that.
time Tyra Banks put on the fat suit
Exactly.
and she suddenly understood how terrible it is to be fat. And,
Well, there's that whole thing about when Gwyneth Paltrow in, I think it was Shallow Hal. I can't remember what movie it was. I think it was Gwyneth Paltrow though, and she talks about like, I cried because no one looked at me in the bar because she spent a day in a fat suit, and the fat people are like, shut the fuck up.
And the worst part is like when I hear sentence like that, then it confirms all of my unfair prejudices about thin people, which is completely unfair.
Well, it is and it isn't because, there's a reason they don't, if it hasn't happened to you, there's a difference between something you've experienced and something you've heard about experiencing by others. And you're not going to get it at the same level. You're just not.
Yeah.
And the only defense about that is you have to know that you don't get it.
well, and I think what's interesting is so looking at the Whoopsiefats in this, I hate to say it like this, trying to be the bigger person.
Oh, maybe you're always the bigger person.
Getting that they don't, they have not been dealing with this their whole lives. And they have not built up the armor, the skill set, the framework to manage this.
And
I
to
think it would
defend
be-
yourself mentally too.
Yeah.
Well, and from the point of view of a lot of, vocal people in the fat community, it's like, really? You get it now? We are telling you for the last 40 years was just us making up stories, and now you get it? Oh, right, because it happened to you. Thanks.
Which is very much my interaction with my father. Like for him, it's this big eureka moment, and he's just sort of excited. Like now, like, oh, you can tell me, like, how do I get my shoes on? Like, well, actually, I don't have that issue, but, but like, I've been telling you this for my entire life. How did you? Okay, whatever. Fine.
Yeah, exactly. And people have a righteous anger about that.
Yeah.
Are you going to take him to the park, Don?
Oh, God.
Let's go for a jog.
Here's that chin up bar we came to 40 years ago.
Oh, hell, skip that. Just like we're going to a shoe store. We're going to try on shoes, old man.
Seriously, like, I think hell for my father will be like his life depending on putting it on his socks every morning. Anyway.
Take him to the park and then say, "Happy birthday, Dad. Good luck getting home."
Yeah.
Drive off.
So yeah, it's an interesting world. Keep aware of like the fat space as people move in and out, and try and be patient with people as they figure things out right now.
And I don't know, maybe we'll get some new some whoopsie fat listeners.
I wouldn't mind a
I don't know
whoopsie
if
fat
they'll-
listener. Come on, join us.
Yeah.
Water's fine.
Am I going to have to trademark that?
Yes.
I think we need to.
Quick,
I
everyone
think we
stop
need
what
to make
you're doing. We
t-shirts. We found our t-shirt line.
There
Yes.
we go. Whoopsie fat.
We
New
do have a
clothing
tip
brand.
today.
Well, we do have a tip, but it's also the mailbag.
A mailbag.
Yeah.
So cue that beautiful mailbag music. So this comes from a listener in regards to last week's episode when I was talking about missing my bidet while traveling. Do you want to read it, Michael?
Sure. This is addressed to Trevor. The listener writes, Trevor, I heard you mention that you had to travel without your bidet recently. I presume your primary bidet is a toilet-based one in your home, which, to be fair, I would assume that too. This is why I'm speaking out of...
I would have... when I leave my porcelain bidet at home.
But they continue... have you ever tried portable/handheld squeeze bidets? They come in varying lengths and sizes, and personally, I can't live without them when I travel. I recommend a model and size similar to this one, and they included an Amazon link for a little squeeze bidet that's only like $12 or $13. And it's basically, it looks kind of like one of those, like what are when doctors intubate and they have to like squeeze the baggy thing.
I think people got it. I don't know what the name of that is either, but yes, that.
It's the thing. I just
pump.
know it from Scrubs, from watching Scrubs. But yeah, you squeeze it and it has like a little nozzle at the end. So I haven't tried it, but I don't know.
I think that's genius.
I think Dan and I talked about this at some point during the trip when we were both bemoaning, not like, reaching for the phantom nozzle.
No, we did. We kept reaching for the control for the water. It's like, damn, it's still not there.
It feels like you're going back in time whenever you go somewhere that doesn't have one. You're just like, why? There's no reason for this at this point.
I have heard about people using these. I have heard about fat people using these. I have concerns. Maybe for sometime in 2022, we'll get a bunch and review them.
Well, we're going on that cruise. We're going to take something. We're going to take something.
That's true.
I mean, my thing is just, I don't know. When I travel, I try to have more fiber, and I'll just kind of leave it at that.
I just had this horrible product idea. So,
yes.
Have you seen, there are these ear cleaning kits that are USB enabled. So like there's a little camera on the, the ear cleaning device, right?
What?
So you can see the wax inside your ear as you clean it.
Yeah. So it helps you target and get out like, blockages.
I don't like where this is going, Don.
I'm just saying, it can be hard to aim those things sometimes,
Trevor is a fan of fart jokes, not poop jokes. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I've made that mistake. I've made that mistake too many times.
We keep it classy here at the Big Fat Gay Podcast.
Listeners, you should have seen how sassy he got just now. It was
straight hand to hip. Straight hand to hip.
Yes.
There was a head tilt and everything.
Thank you, listener. I don't know. I'm serious about maybe trying the travel, like reviewing travel days. My concern is like, I feel like it's a whole thing of like, I don't know what I like carrying it around. I don't know. There's something that squids me out about like the whole fillet, like all them. There's a lot of logistics that get with that maybe we'll explore in a future episode. But thank you for this. It's on my radar. The more I hear positive feedback about it, the more I am open to trying it, but I still have concerns.
I have to say that I have recommended a plethora of bathroom aids over the course of my chubby chaser dating. And most chubs have the initial position of like, yeah, I don't know. Like their skepticism is usually their first reaction rather than like, oh my God, that sounds great. I'll get one immediately.
Well, to be honest, I have a feeling like if I was on a date with someone and they started talking about my wiping procedures, I probably wouldn't want to talk about it either.
Well, I'm just saying that this is not where I begin the date. And B, it's not on the date.
Isn't it, Dan?
No,
Isn't it?
I do talk to people outside the dating arena.
Well, I think we're properly amped and silly and ready to get onto the bit.
All right. So
what do we got?
Today, I thought we would be educational. So since we're talking about people labeling themselves as fat and wondering if it's appropriate or inappropriate, I thought, wait a minute. What does it actually mean, fat, right? Where does that word come from? What are all these different euphemisms of these different words we use? So, for example, just to lead it off, like, have we heard of the word zoftig?
Oh, of course.
Right. I actually have a very quick zoftig story.
Okay.
Of my mom discussing porn stars and saying, I'm not an expert on pornography, but I would expect porn stars to be a little more zoftig.
Because
Why?
because she
In
found out
regards
that
to-
this.
in finding out someone was a porn star and they're very petite, and she, I think, is not an expert in porn stars, but thinks they should be more ample.
Well, the origins of although the word today, like we use, it's a Yiddish word, and we use it to describe a alluringly plump, curvaceous, buxom woman. What it literally is descended from is the word that means juicy, zoft. So when you're saying someone is zoftig, you were saying they are juicy, full of juice. So some of these other words, like there are some interesting histories here. So let's start off with the big one, the word that we have discussed throughout the episode, fat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can any of you guess what the word fat, what its origins, what did it originally mean when it showed up in the English language?
It didn't mean, it was a euphemism for what it actually meant.
It meant something else.
What's Germanic? I'm pretty sure. of that.
Old English, Germanic,
Yeah.
also Norse and German. Like it comes from all these sort of different places.
Yeah, it's a common root.
Anyone want to take a stab at the original meaning of fat?
I'm gonna guess
Uh,
either ample or maybe wide.
I was going to say
rich,
thick, like
All right.
a big piece of wood, like a.
And
Thick
our
tree.
winner for this particular question is Michael.
Aha.
Meant literally abounding in comforts or prosperous in the
Aha.
late 14th century.
hell
You
yeah.
know? And what's interesting is like so words like fat, meaning the teen slang for attractive or up to date, or PHAT, are actually closer to the original meanings of the word than the way we use it today. I just thought that was interesting.
That's cool.
How about the origins of the word chubby?
Oh boy. Chubby. Oh, angelic.
Angelic?
Yeah,
That's my guess.
cherubic.
Okay. Dan, do you have a guess?
I like that. It's probably nonsense, but I like it.
I like it better than its actual origins. Well, it has some animalistic origins. Anyone have a guess? There's a hint there. It has something to do with an animal.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking like whale blubber. I don't know.
Okay, pretty close. So what it means literally is resembling a chub, the short, thick type of fish.
Oh,
Fish.
Right? So
That
it's
is disappointing, really.
So
Yeah.
chubby is like stout like a fish.
stout like a fish. However, there's another root that could come from, which was used a lazy, spiritless fellow, a rustic simpleton, dolt, or fool.
Wow.
Which is also associated with a jolthead, a great-headed, full-cheeked fellow. So chubby, let's go with the fish because I don't like the other connotation. I'm going to go with
Yeah.
the
I mean,
fish.
when they say full cheeks,
What cheeks are we
Yeah.
talking about here?
Let's see. Here we go. Last, this one we portly.
Oh.
Oh.
A boat.
Alcoholic, like drinking too much.
like a boat.
Tied to, okay, we got a boat
I like Michael's tied to port, like someone who
tied to the wine.
a tippler. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like rosy cheeks, rosacea, drinking too much. Yeah.
Trevor may have something on here in that what its original meaning in the 15th century was stately, dignified, of noble appearance and carriage. So like gliding forward
Oh,
like a
like-
ship,
comportment, proper behavior.
comportment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
Last one on my list, stout. This one hasn't changed too much. Stout generally meaning anyone?
Well, beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the origin is still associated with thick though. A stout stick.
Well, a stout beer is thick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah.
That it's not just the beer. It's
Well, Michael, stout is also a body description.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right, so
I assume that's why you mentioned it.
yeah. I thought you were saying like, wait, that's a beer. Okay.
No.
So yeah, you're on point. It means the actual meaning from the 1300s is strong in body, powerfully built.
oh.
Thick-bodied, like that. The way we use it today, thick-bodied, fat and large, bulky in figure, didn't show up until the mid 1800s.
As in stout-hearted. meaning brave.
Yeah. Brave, courageous, masculine was a big
You mean
part.
they weren't trying to say fat-hearted?
So those are some of our origins. It's interesting to. I was diving into some of these words, and it's just interesting to go back in the history and see how they've changed in usage over the years too.
No, I like this. This is a good game.
Like one of the little factoids I have here. It's again, sorry, bit of a tangent, but I just think it's cool. So fat meaning abundant or large. Today we use the term fat chance to mean you have no chance.
Yeah.
Right? Originally, the term fat chance, when it first showed up, meant huge chance. Like this is almost definitely going to happen, right?
Wow.
Because but somewhere along the way, we started using it sarcastically.
It became
you got a
ironic,
big chance of that one. And now that has just flipped the meaning because we're just so freaking
And now it only has
sarcastic.
the ironic meaning.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. You only say that sarcastically. That's so funny.
It's just an interesting world. So, what other euphemisms for fat do you know about, dear listener? Trevor, where can
Probably
they
a
tell us
handful.
about this?
Well, we're on Instagram and Twitter as Big Fat Gay Pod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us 5 stars there. Stitcher, everywhere, all the things. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. Give them to us. See the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod.com.
Yeah.
We're approaching Christmas. We had a fully wonderful Hanukkah. We have the winter solstice, all the winter things coming. And maybe you're listening as you're decorating as you choose. And there's a rustling outside. Maybe some jingle bells. You go outside and it's Whoopsiefat claws. And he's got something for you. So
Jesus, what's he putting in our stockings?
Watch out.
Yeah, it's the Whoopsiefat clause.
Is there a Whoopsiefat with vomit?
Oh, there should be.